We all know so many of our great veterans of World War II are passing on. Time is taking its toll. And I have one, Joe Flynn, who lives in my hometown, who was part of the D-Day invasion and the Battle of the Bulge. Great old fellow, so proud of his service in World War II. And I don't question for a minute what Tom Brokaw said, the greatest generation. They served for the duration when they decided to enlist in our armed forces. But there was also another historic event just last week, the 60th anniversary of the beginning of the Korean War. And we gathered in Statuary Hall, and one of the first persons to speak was Congressman Charlie Rangel of New York. Congressman Charlie Rangel was a combat veteran of the Korean War. He had enlisted before the Korean War in an army that was segregated. And Congressman Rangel happened to be able to serve in Korea in combat because of the efforts of President Truman to integrate our armed forces. I raise that question because I want to ask one of you, any of you, if you think that we can honor the greatest generation and our military men who gave so much to our country and still look back with some dismay that it was a segregated force and it wasn't until the Korean War that our military was truly integrated. And if you think that you can, and I believe you can you understand for a moment how some may have feelings about discrimination in our current military against those of a different sexual orientation and believe that that discrimination should also be noted and people may want to speak out on it? I invite your comments.
Senator, I would say that I can understand that certain members of our society would feel excluded because of a particular policy. And many people have different opinions on that policy. My testimony and my issue is the way in which Ms. Kagan confronted that policy. She could have done so by talking about the wrongs of countries like Saudi Arabia that execute homosexuals. She could have taken issue with it by not bringing senators and congressmen who voted for the law she calls a moral wrong of the first order to campus. There are many different ways she could have zeroed in on that particular policy and instead used the military as the focal point to do it when these recruiters, they're messengers. They're there to recruit.
But I ask you don't disagree with the premise that if you feel that there is discrimination in our society, and even though you respect the institution, the military in World War II, but know there was discrimination, that speaking out is not un-American or inconsistent with our history, is it?
I'm not calling it un-American, but I think you also have to look in the context of post-9/11 world where we are fighting a real enemy, and we need recruits and good ones.
I understand that, and I also understand the testimony of Solicitor General Kagan, and you've all noted it and see it differently, that during this period of time, the recruiters were on campus with veterans organizations, and they actually increased the number of recruits. Some of you said, well, we could have had maybe more if they'd have done it in a different fashion. But I think it was clear from the letters we've received in this committee, she is not opposed to veterans. She is not opposed to the military. It was a matter of conscience for her to speak out. I respect her for that. She might have done it differently. We all might do things a little differently. But I think in the end, there's no question that she has the greatest respect for the military and our country, as I have respect for your service. Thank you.